I'm walking down the street.
I do want to say to Doni and many of you in this room that over a very long career in this city, all of you have helped me and my colleagues tell the truth and to try to tell.
I may not look like you and you me, but
my head up.
I'm from South Carolina, so I just...
What does this event mean to you, Miss Peggy Moss?
Oh, my heart,
Happy 20th anniversary.
my heart is about loving up on my sisters. Do you know what it feels like to have your sisters in the room? Doni.
And that'll be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. I am beautiful, I am blessed, but not just what you see in the flesh. I'm free from people, free from myself. There's
The doctor lived next door to the janitor to the reverend and the lawyer. We were together. Now we get so high and mighty that you create stress for your society because you don't like poor black folks either. That's a health problem. Get yourself together so I can stop being taking care of geriatric people and get back to pediatrics. I thank you, Doni, for all you've done. Let's keep doing it all the more.
letting His glory shine through. That'll be you, that'll be me, that'll be different and unique. I'm gonna be the best me I can be by letting His glory shine through. And I dare you, I dare you, I dare you to be you.
First name's Doni, last name's Glover. In it to win it for the long haul, baby. All right, all right, all right. It's political time. It's that time of the year. We're going to get down to the get down. Mr. Bob Wallace, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Doni. How are you, my friend?
Man, I'm grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful. I am, first of all, amazed at how do you look so young? I mean, seriously. No, seriously.
That's God. That's God, Doni. That's God.
You know, we looking. Okay, all right. Well, praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
We're gonna keep doing it. What are you doing these days?
Well, you know, I've built a team of executives to run the businesses. So the IT business, you know, we got a great team of people running that company. I just hired my son to run the energy company. So he and some of his friends from Facebook, I recruited to come and build Bithenergy. So I can focus on, you know, having impact, Doni, and helping people and helping our city. That's why I'm running for mayor.
And I want to put this on the table. I don't know if you know it. I imagine you do. That Derek Burnett from Baltimore County's got to be your biggest fan. I mean,
yes,
I can go anywhere, and this dude is not. Hey, you supporting Bob? Hey, you supporting? It's like, and he a big dude. You know, I'm not
yes,
the tall stuff. And
yes,
it's like, come on, man, back up, man, back up. Derek Burnett, Randallstown.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God, you cannot have a conversation. You talk to Bob. You had Bob on your show.
We know, Doni, when I ran in 2020, Derek was a strong supporter, him and his wife. And
you don't know? I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Businessman, entrepreneur, you know, he sees the vision that I have for the city and he believes in it. And just a blessing to have people like him on my team to help us. So he's a good man.
He's the engineer. You're an engineer.
Right. That's right.
I got a couple of years of engineering. I learned at Poly that I did not want to be an engineer, but
well, that's good.
Well, I did learn that. Yeah, but
yeah.
The math. And also I gotta tell you, I'm certain that I didn't get enough math before getting to Poly.
Amen, Doni. Amen. That is the Achilles heel, right? So if you don't have, like you said, Doni, if you don't have the foundational math and science blocks to build, because math builds upon itself, science builds upon itself, right?
The learning
so if you don't have the foundation, it's hard. That's why when we mentor kids in STEM, Donnie, in engineering and science, we stress to their parents that they've got to get these building blocks of math and science while they're young, because every building block builds upon the next. What you said? Where? Well, you know,
I went
Donnie,
to Lamel.
Right.
Do you know what the
Donnie,
requirement was up at Lamel?
No,
you
I
had
get
to
it.
be able to fight.
Yeah, that's true. Same way in Cherry Hill. No, I get it. Cherry Hill Elementary, Cherry Hill Middle School. But Donnie, we had back in my day, we had teachers, man, that would kick your butt and make sure that you learn. So for me, coming through Cherry Hill, I had teachers who said, this kid is gifted in math and science. Let me make sure he has the foundational blocks, building blocks. And they made sure I had it. But you're right, Donnie. If you get to Poly and you don't have that foundation, then it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to be an engineer and scientist. It's hard.
It was a learning curve. And two, it was a culture shock. Back then, Poly was majority white.
That's right. Sure was. That's right.
I'm coming from Lamel to Hamden.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I came from Cherry Hill to Poly. I get it. I mean, we were pioneers. I'm not sure how old you are, Donnie, but 58. When I came through, we were pioneers. And you were right. When I was at Poly, it was probably 10% African American, and it was all boys. And you had to take a test to get in. Yep. You had to wear a tie, a jacket and tie, especially on game day. So that was the old Poly. I get it.
You played football?
Now. Sorry.
Did you play football?
I played football my first year, and I played. I ran track, played cross country, wrestled.
When did you have time to study, man?
On the bus. But Donnie, you got to remember, so from Cherry Hill to Poly,
that's a long ride.
2.5 hours each way. So there were 5
hours. What did you eat? Because you do all of that practice. Lunch ain't gonna hold you, man.
Well, you know what? It didn't. But mom and daddy made sure I had some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, in my bag, and we just made it work. We made it happen. Absolutely.
When you look at public education, I was hanging out the other day with Larry Jennings. He had a Poly alumni, a Morgan alumni event. And it just came to me. Barney Wilson was in the room.
Barney Wilson, yeah.
Nobody brought up this Fox News story about the top 5 schools, including our beloved Baltimore Polytechnic,
right,
only producing 11%, producing students that where only 11% were proficient in math. And and I know that is a lie.
It is. I mean, when you look beyond the data,
in the face for any Poly alumni.
Yeah, it was. It was. And I reached out to some people to try to get better clarity, to communicate better clarity to the public about that. I mean, but Donnie, look, we still have, even at Poly, we still have some improvement that we need to make. We need to make sure that as many of our kids who are gifted in math and science can go on to careers in math and science, and that they have the foundation. We got to make sure that our kids have the resources they need to be successful. And Poly and City, who have traditionally been, at the top of the public system, they're great, but they can be greater. And I think that's what we need to do as leaders, help make that happen.
What can a mayor do to help Poly? And I'm not saying I'm not at all slighting any of I grew up across the street from Carver High School. I'm not slighting any schools, but it is particularly painful.
Yes.
When I see on the news, just as Joe Citizen,
right,
a school CEO making $300,000 a year. I'm looking at my city, our city, where we have 0 Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
And I know it has everything to do with the demographics, the citizenry. If our citizenry cannot read and write, then no Fortune 500 wants to come here.
That's right.
If our statistics are high, say in the area of violent crime. I'm troubled. I'm troubled about the future when Fox paints City, Poly, Baltimore School for the Arts, Western, when they paint this dismal picture. I'm confused. What can a mayor do? What can a mayor do, Mr. Bob?
So, Donnie, I would start with, you start with what you can control, right? What can the mayor control? Well, we know that the city provides a significant amount of resources to the public school system, right? So first thing we do is get an accountability of how those funds are being used, right? And how they can be better used. The second thing, Donnie, we need to do, and you and I are poly guys, we know how we were taught to solve problems, right? You got people challenges, you got technology challenges, you got procedure challenges, process challenges, and culture challenges, right? So let's start with people, Donnie. What I'm gonna do as mayor, I'm gonna change CEO, right? Nothing bad against the current CEO, but she's had what, 7, 8 years in this role. I mean, what do you do with a team, Donnie, that's not performing? A NFL team.
Got to go.
You got to change the coach. You got to go. All right. So you change the coach. I'm gonna change CEO. The second thing I'm gonna do, Donnie, is change the board. Because the board of directors, they need to reflect, right, the resources that the city can bring to bear, right, to provide the school system the resources and direction it needs. So we're going to change the board. The third thing we're going to do, Donnie, is going to be a demand-driven system. In other words, I'm going to go to the carpenter union, the plumber union, the electrical union. I'm going to go to the 12 universities in the university system of Maryland, of which I'm on the board of regents. I'm going to go to the corporations, Constellation, BGE, and I'm going to ask them, what are the skills that you require for the jobs, the current jobs, and Donnie, the jobs of the future? Because I want my education system to be demand-driven. I want it to be reflective of building a workforce that can then migrate into the economy to solve the problems of our city and our world. Donnie, if you look at the issues, as I have done and my team have done, you look at the issues facing particularly African Americans in Baltimore City. And if you do as we've done, Donnie, we peel back the onion. So one thing we learned in engineering school is how to solve problems, right? To solve a problem, you got to get to the root cause of the problem. To get to the root cause of the problem, we have a methodology called 5 whys, 5 why, W-H-Y, whys. So when there's a problem, you ask the first why? So why do we have squeegee kids, for example? Well, because they need money. Well, why do they need money? Because they don't have a job. Okay, that's the third why. Why don't they have a job? Because they don't have the skills that the current economy requires for the jobs to be filled. Well, why don't they have the skills? Because they dropped out of school in the school system. Why they drop out of school? Because mom and daddy were probably working 2 or 3 jobs, right, to try to take care of the family. And if nobody,
there was no mom and dad, or somebody got
no mom and daddy. Okay,
somebody got a drug habit.
Absolutely. So Donnie, my mother was recovering alcoholic. I know about addiction. So, but there's still a way when you get to the root cause. The root cause, I will submit to your listeners, is economics. It's economics. So if we can fix, as I'm going to try to do as mayor, if we can fix the economics in this city, Donnie, so that everybody has an economic opportunity. For too long, African Americans have not participated in a meaningful way in the economy in Baltimore City and for the country as a whole.
Well, Mr. Bob, now this is where I got a curveball question for you.
Go ahead, give it to me.
I've looked at your extensive resume, and you are on some pretty heavy boards, including the Greater Baltimore Committee.
Yes, sir. And
you know, like I do, that millions and millions of dollars come through nonprofits, these well-known nonprofits all throughout the city. What do they do with that money? It seems like the money stays downtown and it never makes its way to East Baltimore, West Baltimore, Cherry Hill, Park Heights. It's as if it's as if those in power don't know that they're starving the Black community and they're flooding East Harbor. They rebuilt East Harbor out of nowhere, like a Dubai. They just took our tax money, thanks to the city council, and built Port Covington, now Baltimore Peninsula. And you see all of this stuff around you. Then you look at 24th and Greenmount, where the wreck is, and they have never rebuilt that wreck. You look at Cecil Kirk wreck, they have never rebuilt that wreck. You look at Easterwood, they've never rebuilt it. We've never invested. And one more thing, $32 billion has come through the Maryland State Lottery, and they promised money for education. And lo and behold, we got 11 schools this year that could not open. I'm going to get off the screen and go fill up my coffee, but I'm upset. What can you do, Mr. Bob?
Well, Donnie, I think all of us should be upset, right? I think righteous indignation is a very powerful tool that can be used and should be used. So, Donnie, the first thing I'm gonna do as mayor is to hold systems and institutions accountable. So if they are getting resources from the city or from any other resources, I don't care the nonprofit or whatever, I want to know how are the funds being used and what is the impact that it's having on people. That's what the mayor needs to do. I don't think anybody's off the radar in terms of looking at holding them accountable and making sure that those funds are being used. But Donnie, the second reality is I'll go back to economics. So Donnie, you know, and I know that capital attracts capital, right? You and I know that capital will go to the least risky environment to invest in. So they go to East Harbor and these places because there's less risk, and they perceive that there's a high return on capital. So what I'm going to do as mayor is I'm going to re-engineer the financial equation. So how do we make it financially attractive, Don, to attract capital to Cherry Hill and to East Baltimore and to West Baltimore?
That takes reversing.
It's back down to economics. And so what the mayor has to do is to re-engineer the equation such that it becomes a very likely situation that capital will find its way to Cherry Hill and East Baltimore and West Baltimore. So until that happens, it ain't going to change, Don. It won't change. You're
talking about undoing of races. So you do know how segregation started here in Baltimore in 1910.
Yes, sir.
And so this is 113 years of a racist mentality.
Mm-hmm.
It's like somebody shooting dope for 113 years.
My Lord.
How do we undo this drug addict, this racist addicted mentality? It started in Roland Park. Roland Park didn't want Grandison Ho, the black man, living next door to them in Ho's Heights.
Yes,
and they just started some stuff this year. I tell you, racism is worse than drug addiction. At least with drug addiction, you know, somebody got a heroin, a crack cocaine, a pill problem. But this racism, and they mask it with really fly suits, and they eat at really swank restaurants like out there in Sparks, Maryland, and you know, it's real. You'd never notice it, but it's as racist as a Klansman putting the fire hose on our black people during the 60s. I'm sorry, I just get frustrated, Mr. Bob.
Yeah, I do too, Donnie. I do too. Look. Albert Einstein said that racism is America's most difficult illness. All right, this is Albert Einstein. So there's no question that we as a nation have got to grapple with this, right, and turn this around. Because you and I know you can't heal until you reveal, right? You can't heal until you reveal. And so we have to reveal what you're saying, Donnie. Yeah, this is the history. This is the past. And this is what that history has created today. You know, I'm always amazed, Donnie, when people talk about what's happening in Baltimore with the crime and the hopelessness and the helplessness and the violence. And I say to them, what do you expect to happen? Why are you surprised? This is what happens when people are traumatized for generations, when they are held in poverty for generations. This is what happens. So don't be surprised. The question for us now, Donnie, as a people and as a community is, where do we go from here? And so, like I said, first thing is you got to reveal before you can heal. So we need to do what you just said. We need to articulate that. This is our past. This is what it meant. This is what the results it has made to our city and our people. Okay, we reveal that. We put that out there. Then we say, okay, let's pivot. Now, what can we do moving forward to build an economy, to build a city where everybody can benefit, where everybody can build wealth and be part of the economy? And that's the kind of mayor that I want to be, Donnie, where I put on my hat as not just a mayor, but as a mayorpreneur. That's the term I used in 2020, mayorpreneur. How do we run the city? How do we use the resources that we have, Donnie, to build an economy that creates wealth and creates jobs? And that's why I think somebody with my background in technology and business, I think that's what we need now in Baltimore City. We don't need more politicians. We need women and men that understand technology, that understand the economies and the industries of the future, who understand how do you mobilize resources, how do you build a workforce, how do you attract businesses, like you said, Donnie, at the onset of the show. How do you attract businesses to Baltimore? Donnie, we're losing our businesses to a large degree. I mean, look, I moved my company 20 years ago, as you know, my IT company from Columbia, Howard County, the mecca of technology, right? I moved my company to downtown Baltimore 20 years ago. Why? Because I saw this trend and I recognized that if we don't bring businesses into the city, right, we're going to become a dead city. We're going to die.
But we chase businesses away. We chase businesses out. We chase restaurants out. Baltimore is so dumb. I mean, we act like it's like you got a really nice lady, right, but you keep feeding her dumb stuff. She's gonna leave.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We don't treat the citizens well.
That's true, Donnie.
Money came in from Barack Obama. Instead of putting the money back during Freddie Gray and when Obama was in, instead of putting the money in East and West Baltimore, they put the money down the harbor. Now, a city guy, P. David Bramble, has to redevelop the harbor.
Right.
It's kind of like Obama. They gave Obama America when America was all crappy, and they gave P. David Bramble the harbor after all of their plans failed. And then the Rouse Company has the audacity to say, I can't believe he's going to tear down my daddy dream. It failed, fool.
Absolutely.
They charged that black lady $13,000 a month to run shuckers down there. It was just selfish.
Right. Absolutely. But Donnie, that is the kind of new economy, new age entrepreneur that we need. Yes, Obama came in 2008 when the economy was in shambles, right? And some say that's the only reason he got elected was to put him in that bad situation. However, what did he do? He took what was ashes and he turned it into a golden opportunity. Turned the economy around, created new, not new energies, but industries that he could accelerate, like renewable energy, like EV charging systems and EV vehicles, wind energy, all these new emerging industries. He helped to usher in President Obama. I believe, Donnie, that we can do the same thing in Baltimore City. We can usher in with the right leadership. We can usher in these new economies, these new opportunities. Because we know that for every problem is an opportunity. Every problem that we face, Donnie, is an opportunity. It is not only an opportunity, it is an entrepreneurial opportunity. So what will Mayor Wallace do? What Mayor Wallace will do was take these problems, like picking up trash, right? Or recycles. I mean, take these problems and turn them into an opportunity, turn them into a business opportunity that benefits the people of the city. And I think it's that mindset that we're going to have in the city to turn Baltimore around. And that's the kind of mayor that I would be.
Baltimore Police Department fumbled tremendously. 28 people shot, 2 people killed in Brooklyn, no murder found. People arrested, no murder found. Just this past week, Morgan State. I'm attending Morgan for my master's now. The president had to cancel homecoming because for the 3rd year in a row, violence has disrupted homecoming.
Yes.
Any thoughts? And I remember during the last campaign, you were everybody's father. You reminded especially Black people, you reminded us all of that one father, that one uncle who, when the child acts up, you gonna, hey, go out back and get a switch. I mean, that's where we grew up. But now these kids are called 5-0 on you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How would you navigate connecting the old values that our parents raised us with? Like in my household, you could say a bunch of things, but one word you better not ever say was what?
Right.
You better say, huh? Yes. You say what? You already know. You will get popped, sanctioned. You're not going outside, whatever the case. You probably get popped, though. I'm just going to tell you. That's the generation I grew up. It wasn't a whole lot of talking.
Right. Same here.
But it's a whole new world today. It's an AI world. How do we navigate this and make Baltimore better?
Well, I think that's a great question, Donnie. I think the first thing we have to start with, Donnie, is setting the standard. The standard of what? The standard of behavior.
Behavior.
The standard of how we will treat and respect one another. The standard of how we are as people, human to human. Setting the standard. The mayor has to set the standard. And this becomes the mental model or the code of conduct, if you will, that we as a city say, this is what we expect from our people, and we will not tolerate anything less than that. So we start there. The second thing we do, Donnie, is we go to the root. Okay, again, I guess this is the engineering in me, because I want to find solutions, right? The root. And Donnie, I can tell you, let's start with the root. And the root starts with, and if I use my own experience in Cherry Hill, being raised in Cherry Hill, there were 3 types of crimes, right? That when the guys went bad, that typically they fall one of these 3 paths into crime, right? One was crimes of conflict. Crimes of conflict. Now, what is that? That's what we saw, Donnie, in Brooklyn. And as you know, Brooklyn's right next to Cherry Hill. I mean, I remember we had community parties and we got in fights. Now, see, back then, Donnie, we didn't have the access to guns like the kids do today, but we had conflict. But we fight with our hands, right? And maybe a baseball bat. But these guns now are everywhere. So crimes of conflict. Then there are crimes of addiction, Donnie. Of addiction. I can tell you so many of my homeboys in Cherry Hill who got addicted on heroin, right? And not crack wasn't out there when I came through, but alcohol and pills.
Hey, tell me
and sniffing glue.
Tell me about one of them. Tell me about one of your friends. One of them. Just one.
Just one? Big Wayne.
Who got strung out. You ain't got to say his name. Huh?
I would say his last name. I would just say Big Wayne, right? And he's think, Donnie. So in my group of homeboys in Cherry Hill, I was not the smartest in my group. So there were 10 of us who ran in my gang. I was not the smartest, Donnie. I was probably right in the middle, right? But there were guys like Wayne, Big Wayne, who were brilliant men. But they got caught up in that addiction thing because after the rise of 68, you notice that's when all the drugs began to really proliferate into our community. It became easy to get heroin and get these drugs. And many of us who were dealing with trauma, right? The trauma of being poor, the trauma of being Black in America, they had to find a way to deal with it. And so they turned to drugs. And Big Wayne was one of them. He went to city. Wayne was brilliant, but he got caught in that heroin and it took him down. That's one example, Donnie. And then there's crimes of necessity. And what do I mean by that, Donnie? There are people who need to commit crimes to live. They need money. They need money to feed their kids, to pay the rent. So what do? They turn to methods that are underground methods of earning a living. So as mayor, what I got to do at the root, I got to try to address these areas. How to help people to better manage conflict? How do I use the medical institutions to deal with addiction? And then how do I build an economy that makes it possible for these men, primarily men, right, to earn a living so they can take care of their families. So they're not out there robbing people or breaking into homes. That's the root. Now, Donnie, on the other end of that system is the results. The results. So if you don't deal with the root and you don't have kids who stay in the school system, they're going to fall to the street. When they fall to the street, like many of my homeboys did, they're going to go sideways. They're going to do bad things, and they're going to end up dealing with law enforcement. What I'm going to say is, I'm going to give you everything I can to help you make a choice. However, if you cross the line and you make a decision to take a gun or anything and hurt people, right? If you make it such that the elderly cannot come out of their homes because they feel unsafe, if you're out there on the corner dealing drugs, I'm going to give you every opportunity I can as mayor to make the right choice. But if you cross the line, Donnie, then I got to deal with you that way. And I don't know people who say, well, mass incarceration of Black people, law, defund the police. I get that, Donnie, as a Black man. I get that. And I understand what mass incarceration has done to our community. But on the other hand, my job as mayor, my number one job is to help is to create a safe city, Donnie, where you and your children can live and thrive in safety. That's my number one job. And so what am I going to do when people make a decision to hurt people? I got to come after them. I got to deal with that. But that is a symptom of the root. So I, as the mayor, if I'm doing my job, I got to do both, Donnie. I got to get to the root as best I can. But on the back end of that, I got to make sure that anybody who crosses the line, I've got to hold them accountable. I know no other way to do this.
How do you balance that need, the needs of a 60% majority Black city with the needs of not just your everyday white communities, Hampden,
right.
Locust Point, Roland Park, but also the corporate interest? Because truth be told, it's the money, it's the corporate interest, whether it's developers, whether it's real estate, whether it's banking.
Right.
We got a case coming up on the show about Fulton Bank and some potential discrimination. But we know we need the corporate dollars, but they keep doing these superficial attempts to heal the pain. We have never healed the pain of racism. Baltimore is the home of segregation going back to Mayor J. Barry Mahul in 1910. How do you make white people feel comfortable, but also have Black people understanding that you do love us and you do want the best for us?
Absolutely, Donnie. Well, I go back to my North Star. I go back to my principle. You have to,
it's like you got to be one or the other in Baltimore.
Well, see, I disagree with that, Donnie. I think it's not either or. I think it's both and. I believe you can do both. But we start with, you have to reveal before you can heal. That means that we have to admit the things that we did as a city and the impact it has had on its least able citizens. We have to acknowledge that and make it true. Now, where you and I may disagree, Donnie, as you said, I'm on the GBC board. I've been on it for many, many years. And Donnie, I can tell you something. I believe, if not all, many, that these men and women really do care about the city, really do want to see a Baltimore where everyone can grow and thrive. So I would use my relationship with them, Donnie, as mayor, right, to extract that and to convert that goodwill into practical resources and programs to help the least able of our community. And I believe, Donnie, it's not either or, it's got to be both and. We need the businesses. We need the universities. We need the hospitals. We need entrepreneurs like you and I to thrive and to create jobs and create wealth. And we also need the people in the church and in the communities and in the schools, right? So it's not either or, Donnie, it's both and. But that takes, to make the both and transition, Donnie, that takes a certain kind of leadership and a certain kind of thinking that we've not had in the city for a long, long time. And I think that's the difference.
Doc, I'm just keeping it 100 with you.
Please.
Before I go blaming the white corporate types.
Okay.
For what's wrong with Baltimore. The first ones I look at are the black gatekeepers.
I hear you.
Who get stingy.
I hear you.
And it's almost like the slave plantation and a few blacks make it into the big house and don't want to share with the rest of the black people. So whether it's a black mayor, a black governor, a black president, we got some internal issues. I hate to put this out there, but we don't like each other. So you're dealing with the everyday black person dealing with poverty. And we know we got our white counterparts who dealing with poverty. I live here in Sandtown. White people buying dope here every day, all day.
Absolutely, Donnie.
We're clear about that.
Yep,
but we also know they're the homeowners.
Yep.
We have homeowners in Sandtown, they're homeowners in Hamden. But it's not those. It's not the everyday people. We went to 33rd Street to Memorial Stadium together.
Right.
It's the blacks that make it, and they don't live in the city no more, by the way. I forgot to tell you that. I know you live downtown, but I'm talking about these people. They done moved, and they only come back here for a paycheck, and then they take that money back.
So
I'm asking a very complicated question. How do you balance? What about these gatekeepers in our own community? You came back. You made it your business to give back. When I went to Africa back in 2002, you were right there.
Yes, sir.
You're no stranger to Calhoun Street, Pennsylvania Avenue, to the Peabody. You know this city.
Yes.
But what about the rest of us who have turned our backs on our own people?
So Donnie, there's no question that there is a percent of that group who have become indifferent, who have turned their back, and who just living their lives. You know, people ask me all the time, Donnie, that, you know, Bob, why are you running for mayor? You've built your business, right? You've raised 5 kids, 5 successful kids. You've been married 45 years to a beautiful woman. You got 10 grandkids. You're doing mission work in Africa, building orphanages and hospitals. Why would you want to come back to Baltimore?
Yeah, why?
And deal with this? Because, Donnie, I go back to what my grandfather told me when I was asking him if he came back from World War II. He came back to America. He had gone to Europe to fight for democracy, right? But these black soldiers came back to America, still couldn't vote, Donnie, still couldn't own properties, still couldn't take care of be part of GI Bill, still got red lines. And I said, Granddad, how did you do this? How did you keep going and loving a system that didn't love you back? Nobody told me, Donnie. He said, well, grandson's like this. He said, what keeps us going is that there is a binding agreement with an eternal power. A binding agreement with an eternal power. That's the same principle Bob Wallace has that brings Bob Wallace back to Baltimore to run for mayor. There is a binding agreement with an eternal power. The Bible tells us, Donnie, to whom much is given, much is required. So if God has blessed you and me, he expects us to be a blessing to others. And for us not to be a blessing to others is throwing dirt in the face of God. So clearly, Donnie, there are some people who have turned their back. But I believe, Donnie, that the majority of the people, the black business community, the majority, and you may disagree with me, Donnie, on this, but I believe this. The majority, if you can put together a system and an approach that will help them to funnel their blessings and their resources into projects and systems that will benefit people, I believe, Donnie, they will come. I believe the old saying goes, if you build it, they will come. So what I'm going to do is, Mayor Wallace, I'm going to create what I call Black pioneer systems. And what that means is, Donnie, is I'm going to create systems that will attract these middle class people who have accumulated some form of wealth and money, who have a heart to serve, create a system that allows them to come back to Baltimore, right? To come back to the communities and to use their gifts, because to whom much is given, much is required, to use their gifts to benefit the people. And I believe, Donnie, that if we build it and we build a system like that, that they will come back, and they will invest their talent and their time and their treasure in the people of the city. I believe, Donnie, there is a sizable group that will do that. Now, time will prove me wrong or right, but I believe that. And so that's what Mayor Wallace would do, to get this talent and resources back into our city and get them focused on the issues of our city. When I was in Cuba, Donnie, I went to Cuba. Even before Cuba opened up, right? This is pre-Obama, right? But we found a way to get to Cuba, and we studied the Castro Revolution, right? Now, I'm not a communist, okay? I'm as capitalist down as you can get, right? But it was interesting what Castro did.
They got health care for everybody.
That's true.
I want to study how they do that.
Absolutely, Don. It's amazing, right? But what I want to make to you, Donnie, is once Castro got power, you know what he did? He sent the middle class, he sent the learned, those who gone to college, universities, he sent them back into the country, and each one had to teach one. That's what Castro did, because he recognized that those who were out in the country who were not educated, who couldn't read, who didn't know, he said, I'm going to take the intelligentsia and I'm going to send them out to train and teach those who are in need. And I believe, Donnie, in a strategy standpoint, that same thing can be done in Baltimore City, where we, as you said, we got these successful people who have created wealth and who've done very well. I believe they will come back to Baltimore in different ways, right, to support the city in a rebirth and a new Baltimore. The problem they have, Donnie, quite frankly, is the leadership sometimes does not appreciate them, does not even invite them, does not even create an environment that makes it easy for them to come back into. So we have to create an environment in the city that makes it easy for these men and women to come back and invest in the city. When I was in California, I've been going to California, trying to raise money. I got some classmates who went to Silicon Valley, made a lot of money. And I've been out there talking with them, helping me raise money for mayor in this mayor's race, right? But Donnie, one thing I noticed there in the West Coast in Silicon Valley is that they treat entrepreneurs and business people like rock stars. And that's just simply saying they value them. They value the entrepreneurs. They value the guys who created Twitter and Facebook, right? They value them. And what we have to do in Baltimore culturally, we have to value them, our entrepreneurs, men like you, men like me, people like us. They got to value us and create an environment where it is easy to come back and invest in the city. And that's what Mayor Wallace would do. I would create that environment down where it makes it easy for them to come back.
Do you think Baltimore can ever be a technology hub?
No question. No question. Donnie, look at the assets that we have. Look at the assets. Let's start with the university. But you got Johns Hopkins, you got Coppin, you got UMES, you got University of Baltimore, University of Maryland at Baltimore. We have, Donnie, I sit on the board of regents, right? I oversee all 12 as a regent, oversee all 12 universities in our state. We are the creme de la creme. We have one of the best ports on the eastern seaboard. We are in the Baltimore region. We are within a 400-mile radius of one of the biggest markets on the planet. We've got access to technologies in Washington, D.C. and our federal government. We're doing some work now with DOE, just doing research and all that. We have everything we need to be great.
Except our Black children are part of the process.
Well, yes, but Donnie, that has to be intentional. So Mayor Wallace has to make sure that as we are building these economies, that we are.
They haven't made it intentional after all these years.
Because
Fox spent a lot of money talking about the squeegee kids when all he had to do was open up a Saturday school.
I hear you. So
why don't we hear anything from this school CEO about a Saturday school? One of your opponents is talking about an extended school day. When we went to Poly, if you messed up, I know you had to go to Saturday school to catch up on your work.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yep. Or stay after school, right? I mean, when I came through poly, it was not illegal to jack up a child when they were out of line. And what I mean by jack up is you grab them, okay, and you shake them, right? I remember at poly, man,
saved our children's lives.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
But then Spock came. But then Dr. Spock came in talking about timeout. My mother ain't no timeout. And call the police on my mother if you want. I said, mother, call the police on my mother. Your stuff be sitting at the front door.
Absolutely.
Take them.
Yes,
take them.
Take them. Absolutely, Donnie. That's true. My mom and dad was the same way. And many of our parents of that era was the same way. We have to rebuild that system of accountability, Donnie. No question about it. And we have to stand together on implementing that system. We can't have the parents arguing with the teachers because the teacher's trying to hold the child accountable. We can't have the parents attacking the principals because the principal is holding the kid accountable. All three of those institutions, the parent, the teacher, the administration, they got to be on the same page. And that's going to take leadership. That's going to take time. That's what
it's going to take some preachers too. We need some preachers because these mothers and fathers are busy doing dances on TikTok instead of going to the PTA meeting.
Amen. 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 So we got to hold parents accountable. Absolutely, Donnie. You cannot allow the street to raise your child. You and I both know what will happen if you allow the street to raise your child. We know what will happen. So we got to hold the parents accountable. And so that's part of the approach of how do we get to the root cause, right? To deal with the outcomes and the symptoms that we're seeing now in our city.
So this man helps pay for this show. I got to give him a shot. Here's his question. He wants to know how you will recruit talent to run the business of government. Mr. Michael Haney from
Absolutely. Well, Mike Haney, as you know, is a successful entrepreneur, businessman. So he understands business. So what I would do, Mr. Haney and Donnie and listeners, is that I would open up the government to resources from the business community. And one of the things I bring to the table, Donnie, is having been in business over 40 years, I know a lot of business leaders in different areas of business, in technology, manufacturing, administration, marketing. I know a lot of people, a lot of relationships there, Donnie. Now, as mayor, my job is to bring in the best and brightest, right, to fix the problems. For example, Donnie, let's take DPW, Department of Public Works, where we have our water and our trash collection, all that. That's an area I'm going to focus on right away, Donnie, right? Because that gets to the quality of life issues. Why can't we collect trash? Tell me that. Why can't we recycle our recyclables? Why can't we have clean water? See, those things, to me, Donnie, those are layups. So I'm going to, as Mayor Wallace, I'm going to be on that like white on rice, baby. I mean, it's got to be, let's get the basics right. Let's get the trash.
You know, there was an E. coli. Somebody put it out there. They got E. coli in the water. And after what we went through here in Santana and Harlem Park less than a year ago, and people dropping off water, it's Mr. Bob, it's tiring.
It is, Donnie, and people are tired.
It's tiring, and then the water bill is several $100s.
Yes, sir. Yes,
and
sir.
if you don't pay the water bill, they want to take your house. But these vacant houses that you live next door to, that private owners have just dilly-dallied with for years.
My Lord.
And I know it's something from the state legislature,
right?
But I think about these three firefighters, these three emergency personnel.
Yes, sir.
They got killed in a property that had been repeatedly on the list. It's like, who's on first base? Who's watching the shop? Who's paying attention? Or are we busy looking cute for Instagram, for TikTok? Who's doing the work, Mr. Bob?
So, Donnie, this is what happens.
I know that's a loaded question. I know, but
I don't mind loaded questions. I love loaded questions. But Donnie, this is what happens when problems are compounded. And what I mean by that is when you don't address the initial problem and you let it fester, then it becomes a bigger problem. Then that problem becomes an even bigger problem. And this is what we see in Baltimore City, that we're not addressing the initial problem, the small problem, if you will, right? And then it becomes a bigger and bigger problem. What I'm suggesting to you is that we live in an age where clean water, right, should be a layup, where trash collection should be a layup, where being able to recycle recyclables should be a layup, where we can walk down clean streets that don't have trash all over the place, that should be a layup. And so what I'm saying, Doni, as an engineer and businessman, as an engineer who solves problems, I've solved problems for my whole life. So as mayor, things like this, Doni, the quality of life issues, I'm going to be all over it. All education. There's no reason why our children cannot learn and be competitive on a global level. Doni, look, you and I came through the Baltimore City public school system. We are products of it. I went to 2 Ivy League schools, competed with kids from all over the world, and held my own.
What schools are they? You got to tell me.
University of Pennsylvania for engineering and Dartmouth College for my graduate work. Then you got Bishop Thomas, Cherry Hill man, Poly man too, by the way, Doni. Bishop Thomas. You got Billy Murphy. You got Kurt Smoke. All these men and women who have come through the Baltimore school system, right? Who were educated in Baltimore by the Baltimore school system, but who went on, Doni, to compete on a global level. So we know that the system is capable of producing men and women who can compete on a global level. What the mayor has to do, and those around him or her, they've got to go and recreate that system again, so that our children, that our babies who are being educated in the Baltimore school system can leave Baltimore if they choose and compete on a global level, or down there, if they don't go to college, they can become a great carpenter, a great electrician, a great plumber. These guys, these men and women make lots of money. You ever hired a plumber recently or a carpenter? They make very good money. It's not about college or non-college. It's about getting skills that are marketable, that allows a young woman or a young man to leave the education system and become a wage producer, and become an entrepreneur, somebody that creates wealth. That's what our system needs to be able to do. It did it at one time, Doni, for you and I and our generation. It can do it again with the right leadership and the right plan. And that's what Mayor Wallace would do.
Any mayors that you look up to over the years? Any leaders who?
Absolutely. There's so many. And let me give you a couple of them. Do we have time for a couple of them?
Absolutely.
Okay. So let me start with Baltimore. Okay. I'll start with Mayor of Baltimore. I'll start with William Donald Schaefer, and let me explain why. Because every person I'm going to give you, there was share with you that there was a unique quality that man and woman had, that I said, yeah, this is what a leader and mayor needs to have.
Man, we saw people trying to jump into Schaefer's hearse when they were burying him. I saw black people. That blew my mind. I was like, nah, dude was all right, but I'm not jumping in the damn hearse.
No. I get that, Doni. But he
loved Baltimore.
He loved Baltimore, Doni. Loved Baltimore, and he had a do it now. He had a do it now mentality, right? So Mayor Wallace, when I see something that's a layup that can be fixed, my approach is the same way I built my life and my business. Do it now. I say Kurt Smoke, because I think Kurt Smoke was our smartest mayor we ever had. Kurt Smoke was a man that could think outside of the box. He was
no scandal. Ivy League too.
Yeah. Smart guy, educated, confident. That's what I like about Kurt Smoke. Now, let me tell you about some funds that makes.
And he invested in Sandtown, and my journalism career started under him. And he always used to push me to go back to college. Kurt Smoke.
That's true, Doni. That's true. And
he did go to City though.
He went to City, but I forgive him for that though. He did go to City. That's true. But Doni, he was also the mayor that gave Bob Wallace and BITHGROUP Technologies its first chance. Years ago, Doni, back in the 90s, when I started my IT company, right? Mayor Smoke's administration, they were the ones who gave us an opportunity to show what we could do, to help the city build its information technology infrastructure. Now he could have chosen IBM, he could have chosen Booz Allen, these multi-billion-dollar corporations, but he and his team said, there's a local business, it's minority owned, they're talented people. I think we should give them a chance, give them a shot. And he did that for us. And it made a difference, Donnie, in our business. That's Kurt Smoke. But let me give you a couple that may surprise you. So, because I'm gonna go to Marion Barry. Now, your audience may be thinking, well, why would you choose Marion Barry?
Are you kidding me? The people loved him. They still love him. There wouldn't be no PG County if it weren't for Marion Barry.
That's exactly right, Donnie.
And he made white and black millionaires.
Absolutely. He made more millionaires.
He took a bullet for them people.
Yes, he did, Donnie. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Literally.
He made more millionaires. So what Mayor Wallace has to do is to create an environment in Baltimore, Donnie, where we can create as many millionaires and billionaires as we can. Because those men and women are going to be the ones that create the jobs and create the wealth. That's Marion Barry. Then I'm going to tell you another one that may surprise you, and that was Maynard Jackson.
Damn right.
Jackson.
Hartsfield International. He said,
absolutely,
cut off the water.
Absolutely. So
everybody got to eat.
That's right. So what did Maynard Jackson bring? He brought what I call political courage. He said when they were going to build Atlanta Airport and they were excluding minority and women-owned businesses, he said, as mayor, he said, you will not build this airport until it is inclusive of all the people in this region. And he held it up, Donnie, for a couple of years. And he took a lot of hell for that. But he had political courage.
He did take a lot of help.
Yes, he did.
Man.
They came after him, Donnie. They came after him. But that's what leaders have to do. Leaders cannot be a searcher of consensus. They got to be a molder of consensus. And Maynard Jackson was a molder of consensus. He said, you're not going to build this airport unless it is inclusive. That took political leadership. Let me tell you another person. You said, who do I look up to? Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein was not just a great physicist and scientist, but he was a great man of the community. Do you know that Albert Einstein, when he came to the U.S., he spent a great deal of time at HBCUs teaching Black folks about business and about life. He said that racism is the biggest disease in America. This is back in the 50s. He said that you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created the problem. So that's why I'm saying about where we are now as a city, Donnie. We cannot use the same mindset that created the problem to fix the problem. It's impossible. That's why I think we need a new leadership model in Baltimore City that doesn't follow the old decades-old tradition, right? That we bring in somebody from the outside, somebody who has some knowledge of business and technology, who has relationships to bring to bear to the table. That's the kind of person that we need in Baltimore right now. The same mindset. You cannot solve these problems with the same mindset, Donnie, that created them. And we keep doing this over and over and over again. And this is not about any particular person, Donnie. I don't care who it is. It's the mindset that I'm talking about.
But I need to know how you would balance white people don't feel comfortable. White people don't feel safe. White people don't even want to hear about racist history. Get rid of the books like DeSantis down in Florida. Ban the books. Don't forget about the history. Hell no, ain't nobody forget about it. Did you see Montgomery, Alabama? People are angry, and the more one group wants to kick it to the side, the more another group wants to bring it up. And we haven't even touched the whole Middle East thing that's just dominating the news.
Yeah,
as if we don't have an opinion, as if Black lives don't matter. We know when we get stomped and trafficked and enslaved and changed, nobody's making noise about us. But all of that aside, I want to give you the final thought. You gave me more time than you allotted, but I want you to take a minute and tell people why you should vote for mayor. I want to thank you for coming on this show, and let this not be the last time. There's so many comments over here, but would you take a moment and tell us why people should vote for you?
Absolutely, Donnie. Well, Donnie, I thought about why I wanted to do this and why I wanted to get in this race. I ran 2020, as you know, as an independent. I'm running this time as part of the Democratic ticket. And I've asked myself many times in my family, why am I doing this? And Donnie, I go back to the quote I gave you from Albert Einstein. That is, you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. And I asked the people of Baltimore, if you are happy with the way things are in Baltimore City, if you believe that this is the best that we can do, if you believe that our children can't be educated the way that they should be and be able to compete on a global level, if you believe that we have to live in fear every day and that we cannot come out of our homes because we fear for our safety, if you believe that we have to live in filth and dirt and trash and that's acceptable, if you believe that leadership doesn't have to pay attention to you and be so arrogant that they don't listen to the people of the communities and to hear what they have to say, if you think that's okay, then I would say to the people who listen to this broadcast, Donnie, and I would say vote for the same people over and over again. But if you're like me, Donnie, and if you believe that we can do better, if you're somebody like me who was raised in the midst of racism and segregation, but yet our people were able to not only survive, but thrive. If you believe that we are just as intelligent and gifted as any person on the planet, if you believe that we have resources at our disposal, we just need to rethink how we use them, Donnie, and how we implement them, and then how we execute on strategy. If you believe those things, then I would say I'm the person that you should give a chance to. You've given chances to everybody else in the past. Let's pivot now, and let's try a new approach. Let's try a new approach to making Baltimore a great city, a better city where everybody can grow and prosper. If you believe that, Donnie, then I'm your guy. I'm the guy that you should give a shot to. And I tell people, Donnie, real simple: give me a chance to implement the vision I have for the city with your help. And if I don't do a good job, then you kick my butt out and you get somebody else. But what you should not do, any of us, what you should not do, Donnie, is accept mediocrity, is accept disrespect, is accept people just not paying attention to you and your needs. You should never accept that, whether it's me or somebody else. So, Donnie, that's what I would say to the people of Baltimore.
Now I got a real Baltimore question for you. Where do you go get a crab cake in Baltimore?
Well, Donnie, this may disqualify me, but I am
in Baltimore.
No.
It's got to be in Baltimore City, Baltimore.
I'm not necessarily a vegan.
Oh yes, you don't eat.
That's right. I'm Seventh-day Adventist, as you know, and so there's certain things that we try not to eat. And
somebody eat a crab cake. Somebody you got to take a crab cake. Where do you go to get them that crab cake?
Well, we used to go to Blue Waters back in the day in Cherry Hill. A Blue Water crab cake. Yeah. So we're gonna.
Well, that's a real segregated answer, because Cherry Hill is one way in, one way out.
That's one way out.
Can you come back toward the city, like anywhere in the city? Cherry Hill, man, you go to Cherry Hill and you don't know nobody, and you waiting on that 51 bus. You know what's gonna happen. You're gonna get got.
That's true, Don, and that's what happened. Unfortunately, many times.
Many times.
So yeah, I mean, but we got such great institutions in the city, Donnie, and we just need to highlight them and give them a chance to thrive.
You think you will be able to work well with you think you'd be able to work well with the governor Westmore?
Oh, absolutely. I the governor has a great vision for the state. He understands, Baltimore City. He understands the people. We don't agree on everything, Donnie. I'm kind of, have my views as a businessman and as an entrepreneur. But what I've learned to do, Donnie, is this: I've learned to work with anyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, young, old, black, white. What is important is that we have a shared vision and a shared mission. And if those things can coincide, then I can work for anybody down across any barrier. And that's been the hallmark of my career as an entrepreneur and as a father and as a husband.
Well, I just want to say your church and with your help, I went to Africa. I've been wanting to go since I was 15 years old. And you, Fraser Mathis, the Seventh-day Adventist, you sent me to Ethiopia.
Yep.
I've been wanting to go to Africa for a long time. And for Ethiopia to be the first place, and Ethiopian Airlines, oh my God, I was single at the time. Lord have mercy. Woo! Brothers, you need to, but to go to Ethiopia and then Tanzania, and more than that, to be the first in my bloodline, put my face down on the continent.
Amen. And
then to see the work that was being done to help empower others in the Ethiopian village. We were in a orphanage where all of the children, their parents had died from HIV and AIDS.
That's
and
right.
I learned how important Michael Jackson was to the Ethiopian people. They revered him, they adored him because he brought water.
Yes.
Water. So thank you. Now I wasn't all that keen on the Seventh-day Adventist diet.
I know you were.
That's a whole other conversation. But I got to see Mother Africa.
Well, Donnie, we have taken over the years. It's been now over 35 years. We've taken hundreds of people like you to the motherland, if you will, and we have inspired hundreds of people on the ground in those countries, through orphanages, through churches, through schools. Even, Donnie, I was teaching entrepreneurship to emerging entrepreneurs in West Africa and in East Africa. So, Donnie, God has given us all the resources and skills that we need to change not only Baltimore, but to change the world. And that's what we're required to do. To whom much is given, much is required. And I live by that, and would live by that as mayor of Baltimore.
Good deal. Mr. Bob, thank you very much for joining us. And we look forward to bringing you back on the show, and give them hell out there.
I sure will. God bless you, my friend.
God
Take
bless
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Good morning, world.